If you're having trouble getting the words down or coming up with what to write next, you need to stop thinking when it's time to write. One of the most valuable activities that we do in my creative writing class is our 10-minute free writing sessions that we do every day. And we do this at the very beginning of every class period, 7:30 in the morning. I post a prompt on the board, students get out their journals, and they write, and they're not allowed to think about it. Many students like to look at the prompt and then think for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. What am I going to write? How can I respond to this prompt? No. I might give them 1 minute just to digest the prompt, make sure they understand what's being asked. And they don't even have to write to the prompt if they don't want to, but just think about it, process it for 1 minute, and then they dive in. And the rest of the thinking happens while they're writing. This is so valuable. When you let your pen start moving, when you let the words start flowing, even if they're not the right words, even if you're not sure what you're writing yet, just start writing. Your brain kicks on into writing mode. And if you've done the proper pre-work, if you've done the thinking outside of that, then you'll get into the flow state. And the words will start to come, and they'll start to come naturally, and they'll start to build on each other, and soon enough, you'll have a story going. In other words, you let the pen start doing the work, and your mind will catch up. But if you stop and you just stare at a blank screen, a white screen in front of you with that blinking cursor, and you're like, okay, what am I going to write next? What am I going to write next? What am I going to write next? You're doing things in the wrong order. You need to do your thinking at a separate time from your writing. Of course, your mind's going to be working while you write. But if you're thinking, if you're constantly caught up in your head, you're not going to get in flow, and you're not going to be producing the words that you want. You're not going to be producing as much. You might end up like James Joyce, who, granted, he's a brilliant writer, but he's legendary for taking so much time to write that one of his friends once asked him, James, how many words do you get written today? And James says, 6. And his friend says, well, James, that's good for you. And James says, yeah, but I don't know what order they go in. You don't want to be like that. Granted, James Joyce was a great writer. He was also a genius. He's also a writer who's considered very hard to read, and very few people read him anymore. Certainly not his novels. Finnegan's Wake is impossible. Anyway, you don't want to be like that. You don't want to have so much pain in your writing. If your writing is so painful for you, it's so much of a headache for you to do, you're probably not going to do it very much. You're probably not going to be a very productive writer. So you need to do your thinking outside of your writing time. This means when you are not writing, you need to set some time aside where you put your phone away, turn it off, where you get distractions out of the way. No TV, no radio, have a little fan on for white noise if you need, but just sit and stare at the wall or stare at your outside yard or wherever you happen to be, wherever you need to go for inspiration, and be bored for a little bit and think. Do your thinking then. Think about all the things about your story. Process all the possible details. Who is your character? Who are your characters? Get to know your characters. Get to know the world of your story. Think about different possibilities for where your story can go. And then, when you sit down to write, stop that thinking. Turn that switch off and just say, okay, pen to paper, boom, start. Pick your starting point. That can be part of your thinking process. Pick your starting point first. Then, okay, I know I'm starting here. I know I'm starting at A. I know I have to get to B by the end of this writing session. All right, how am I going to get there? I've already thought it through. You've already fed your subconscious the information it needs to back up your writing as it goes. So all you need to do is just start pouring the words out. Once you get into flow, the writing is going to come, and it's going to sound more natural. It's going to feel more natural. It's going to be more of a fun process. And it's going to be even more of a fun process to edit afterwards, because you're not going to have so much stilted, weird, awkward stuff that you overthought to try to edit out. It's going to sound like your natural voice. And editing is going to be more of a pleasure. So one more time, if you get stuck thinking while you're writing, it might be a time to take a break from writing just for a couple minutes, go away from the computer, away from your notebook, sit aside, and think for a little bit. Then, once you've gotten all that stuff out of your mind, you might even want to meditate. I will do another video on meditation and why this helps with writing as well. later on. But just thinking, which is not meditating, it's different, but thinking separately from writing will help prep your brain so that when you do sit down to write, you don't need to try to do two things at once. You don't need to think of what your story is going to be while you're writing your story. When you're writing your story, you can just write your story. Trust the process, get into flow, and keep the words coming. When it's time to think, think. When it's time to write, write. I hope this video helps you out, guys. Now, as soon as this video is done, please first like and subscribe. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Make a comment down below if this video helped you. If you have any other advice, tips, or tricks you'd like to hear me talk about, I'm happy to address any of your concerns, any of your questions. I'd love to do a Q&A sometime, so let's keep the conversation going. But in the meantime, as soon as you're done with this video, as soon as you subscribe, turn YouTube off, sit down, think, and then stop thinking and get to writing. Good luck, guys. Peace.